Hey everyone, Jennifer Lee Chan here from NBC Sports Bay Area. And it is the middle of I don't know, I guess it's maybe the end of the first wave of free agency, the beginning of the second wave. And I know everybody out there is wondering what the hell is going on. And it's been startling to say the least. And tons of players that were on the 49ers roster last year have struck huge deals with other teams. And I know you all are wondering why this is happening. So I looked at the spending for the 49ers for the last, I mean, 8 years since Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch came in, and they honestly have been spending a lot of money. And eventually it's going to come to the day where they have to pay up, and all that money's going to go against the salary cap. But as of right now, they've kind of been kicking the can down the road. So I'm going to give you what the 49ers have paid over the last 8 years of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's spending. All right, so in 2017, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan are hired. They have a huge free agency class, eight of them. Kyle Juszczyk was one of them. None of those guys are around anymore. Robbie Gould was one. Jerick McKinnon was another one. I think Jerick McKinnon, they really thought he would be similar to what Christian McCaffrey was in his Offensive Player of the Year run. Um, but there really weren't any players that were on the roster at the time. It was kind of in shambles. And so there weren't any big extensions for homegrown talent because they didn't have any. So in 2017, they were number 17 in the league out of 32 teams in spending. They spent $166 million and the cap was 167. So under the cap, conservative year. The next year, 2018, they started spending a little bit more money. Now, you look at 2017, that was when they drafted George Kittle. 2018, you know, Jimmy Garoppolo. So, they had to do a big deal there. And then the cap, $177.2 million. They spent 202. So already right there, $25 million over the cap. That's in 2018. And they were number seven in the league in spending. Fast forward a year later, 2019, the Super Bowl run. The cap is $188.2 million. Niners, they spent $211 million. They were number three in the league in spending. So they're not cutting any corners here. 2020, COVID year, revenue goes down. It's a tough year. But the 49ers still keep spending. They spent $243 million and the cap was $198 million. They spent 243. So they spent close to $50 million over the cap. And again, this goes back to, they'll give a player their cash advance ahead of time. Technically, it's money out, and then they don't put it on the books till maybe a year later or 2 years later. They kick the can down the road. All right, 2020. They were number five in spending in the league. Now, revenue goes down for the league because of COVID. There's no ticket sales. Not as many people are watching football. It's not as exciting. There's no crowds. It really was a huge decrease of revenue for the league. So the cap goes down in 2021. $182.5 million. 49ers keep on spending. $231 million. They are number five in spending in 2021. Now, in 2022, it does go down a little bit. They are number 19 in spending, but they still spent over the cap. The cap is $208 million. They spend 227. Now, it's not the 40, $50 million over, but they're still almost 20,000. They're $19 million over the cap. All right, 2023. $224 million, and the 49ers spent 268. They are number six in the league in cash out in 2023. Obviously, Super Bowl run. They did huge deals like Chase Young, Randy Gregory, and, big deals for, I think 23 was Nick Bosa's deal. Yeah, I think so. Uh, and so huge money out. 2024, last year, cap was $255 million. They spent $334 million. Number one cash out team in the league. $334 million. They're $80 million over the cap in 2024. Now the cap does keep going up. It is going to be much higher in 2025, 279.2, I believe. Yes, 279.2. So it does go up. So they're going to have a little bit more room. But because of this overspending year after year after year, at some point, it's going to catch up to them. And I think this is the year that the 49ers decided that this is when they're going to, like as John Lynch says, recalibrate. They are going to spend less money, but they do have their core players. They still have foundational players. And you look at how many players in the league make top dollar, and they still have a lot of them on their team. It is Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. It is Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. That's seven guys, either in the top one or top two at their position. And that's not even counting Brock Purdy, who is coming up. I really think that, yes, it's a very extreme, it feels very extreme, but you look at those seven players, soon to be eight, are going to be at the top of their position in earnings across the league. That does say something. I mean, because a lot of teams have maybe two, maybe one, not even, maybe not even that. Maybe they don't even have a guy in the top five of their position. So, yes, I know it's extreme. I know it feels crazy and you wonder what's going on. But when you look at the history of spending, they have been over the cap in one, two, three, four, five, six, 7 straight years. And not by a little, by a lot. So it's not that the Yorks are cash poor. It's not that they want to dial back spending. It's because they want to make sure they have room to pay Brock Purdy what he deserves, which is going to be about 55 to 60 million dollars because that's the market value of a quarterback these days and because the cap is almost 280 million dollars. A quarterback is 20%, 22% of the cap, which puts him right at 55, 60 million dollars a year. And that's, average annual value. So that's what's going on. I know it seems extreme. Every player that has left the 49ers, except for Kyle Juszczyk at this point, he hasn't signed yet, has had huge money deals. The players that have left, their contracts currently right now, this is minus Kyle Juszczyk because he hasn't signed yet. There, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 players. 13 players that have left the 49ers have signed deals. And their total amount of their contracts for the full term, $323.5 million dollars. Over the cap. 15 players got deals that obviously multi-year. This year alone, those 13 players are scheduled to make $126.36 million dollars. Those 15 players, and listen to who we're talking about here. Aaron Banks, Charvarius Ward, Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw, Jalen Moore, Javon Hargrave, Malik Collins, Leonard Floyd, Isaac Yadam, Joshua Dobbs, Elijah Mitchell, Charlie Heck, Brandon Allen. So those 13 players, and some of them are, they're not big deals, but all of their yearly salaries for next year together, $126 million dollars. Now, as much as, yes, the 49ers would like to keep all of those players, we knew that the writing was on the wall. Aaron Banks was going to go somewhere else. They do not sign offensive linemen to big money deals unless they're Trent Williams. Charvarius Ward, he wanted to be closer to home. They signed Deommodore Lenoir to a huge contract. So that's kind of their big money cornerback. Can't really have two. Talanoa Hufanga probably wasn't going to be able to make as much because they have Malik Mustafa. They have Jair Brown. They're going to stay with the young guys. Talanoa Hufanga heads to Denver. Dre Greenlaw. I know this one was a tough one for 49ers faithful, but 3 years at $35 million dollars. That's a lot of money. He's going to make over $11.6 million dollars in 2025. I just don't think the 49ers could. I'm sure they made a run for it, but I am betting that the offer that the 49ers gave to Dre Greenlaw was nowhere close to what Denver offered, 3 for 35. I would think the 49ers probably, with his injury history, are probably looking at a 2-year deal. And I don't know this. I'm just saying the historical pattern that the 49ers have, 2-year deal is what I would think Dre Greenlaw would get from the 49ers. Not that he doesn't deserve more. If I had the checkbook and I had unlimited funds, we'd all pay Dre Greenlaw more. All right. Jalen Moore, swing tackle, 2 years, $30 million, $15 million a year. He was solid. He covered when Trent Williams got hurt. Solid contract. Javon Hargrave, also 2 years, $30 million. He's was never going to make that with the 49ers. He was set to have a big contract, but there's no way they could afford that. Malik Collins, 2 years at $20 million. Leonard Floyd got a 1 year deal at 10. So basically it's the same cost, $10 million a year. Isaac Yadam, 3 years at $9 million. Joshua Dobbs, 2 years at $8 million. Elijah Mitchell, 1 year at 2.5. Charlie Heck, 1 year at 1.6. And Brandon Allen, 1 year at 1.4. So that's a lot of money. And the 49ers just can't afford to keep all those players. I know there was like, okay, well, at least if they keep Dre Greenlaw or at least if they get Joey Bosa. But I honestly think the 49ers weren't willing to spend huge money on players that happen to be injured a lot. Joey Bosa has been injured quite a bit. Dre Greenlaw has been dealing with a lot of injury issues. As much as we all would like him to be around, they've got to start reining in the spending. But yet, feel lucky that the 49ers still have those players that are core foundational players to the franchise, and they're going to be around for a lot longer. So Christian McCaffrey's got to stay healthy. George Kittle, they want him to retire a 49er. I think they want to do the same for Fred Warner. These guys are the backbone of this team. Deommodore Lenoir is coming up. He's, up and coming leader. He got started to be a much more vocal in 24. You've got Trent Williams, who's always been a leader, and Brandon Ayuk. He's got to get healthy. But you've got those foundational players that are still part of the team, and they are going to bring those new guys along. It's going to be, it's going to be tough for everybody to adjust. But, um, I think Luke Farrell, 3 years, that's their big splash signing. 3 years, $20 million, 20 and a quarter, and Mac Jones. So those are your two big signings. Mac Jones, it's so weird that he's actually coming to the Bay Area after kind of snubbing the 49ers after not being picked at number 3. I know he wasn't happy. I know the 49ers, everybody thought the 49ers were going to take him. So it'll be interesting to see how, he gets along with Kyle Shanahan. I'm betting he saw what Sam Darnold did last year and wants to be in that type of career arc. So Mac Jones comes to be the backup quarterback for Brock Purdy. And, he'll use it as a springboard to get another contract with another team. And, maybe it will be back up, maybe it won't. So we'll see. All right. So that's the money news with the 49ers. So please don't be too discouraged. This is what's going on. It's a lot of money. They've been paying over the cap for a long time. So one of these years was going to be coming. And John Lynch forecasted the entire thing. I just think none of us were ready for it. So hang in there. I'll have more news for you as we get to it, but the signings it is Luke Farrell, 3 years, $20.25 million. DeMarcus Robinson, 2 years at 9.5. So that's another big splash of their group. It's a bigger signing. Mac Jones, 2 years at $7 million. Jason Pinnock, 1 year at 2.2. Richie Grant, 1 year at 1.5. And John Weeks, long snapper, 1 year at 1.42. All right, a little bit about Tabor Pepper. Yes, broke the story about him being released. So weird. But Tabor Pepper's contract was 1.25 or $1.22 million. Sucks because Tabor's so much fun to talk to. Great even after a loss, like helps me do my job. Fantastic guy to talk to. John Weeks is 39 years old and is $1.4 million. So you're like, where does this fit into the get younger, get cheaper scenario? Well, John Weeks' guaranteed money is only $200,000. So with all the draft picks that the 49ers have, I'm betting that they draft a long snapper. And then after a little bit of competition, maybe they let John Weeks go because it's only $200,000 as guaranteed money for him. So that's a lot less than Tabor Pepper's 1.2. It's always unfortunate to see players that you like departing, but part of the business. So explaining that's what happened. So less guaranteed money and someone who'll probably compete with whoever they bring in during training camp. All right, everybody, hang in there. Maybe there'll be more signings. This is kind of the second wave of free agency. We'll see what the 49ers do. And I'll get back to you guys soon. All right. Have a great weekend. It's Friday. Stay safe and stay warm. Weather out there is cold.